This hostage rescue operation to retrieve these 4 Israelis. Can you call them hostages, first of all, when they're prisoners of war? Remember, every man and woman in Israel has to join the army. And these 4 specifically, we know that they were in the army. Now, I'll come back to their status in a bit, but there's more and more details coming out. And here's some, footage that was released. This is meant as propaganda from the Israelis, like, oh, look how cool and how serious it is. What a big deal. I mean, they killed 274 people, right? Like that's the number now from the Gaza Health Ministry, 274 people. So the mentality behind all of this is that four Israelis are worth 274 Palestinians. And this is fundamentally how Israelis think. They really believe this. For them, Palestinians are not human beings. They are goyim. They are Amalek. It's basically another way of saying someone who is not human, a subhuman, right? Goyim, you see this in the Talmud pop up a lot, This is the mentality that Israelis have. They seriously believe this because, if this happened anywhere else in the world, like, for example, there was a supposed hostage rescue in London, and 270 people got killed. Everybody would be like, well, how is this a success? You killed 274 people. How is that a success? People would be very, very angry. They would be furious. But because it happens to Palestinians, it's fine. It's fine, apparently, right? And the people that are saved are white. So that's okay. Well, more or less. So, the way that Israelis think, they don't think in terms of there is an element of white supremacy, but it's more focused on Jewish supremacy. A Jew is a Jew, and a Jew is superior to another human being. This is truly how they think. This is how the Israelis think, the Zionists think. So, when they put out these images here, sure, you can feel good for them or feel glad on a humanitarian level, I suppose. But this is not the sight that you see from Palestinians who are released, okay? As a matter of fact, if anyone had gone in to retrieve Palestinians that are being held hostage, does that ring a bell? Well, then they would get very upset. As a matter of fact, they haven't stopped whining since October 7th. And that was a hostage rescue operation. You have to understand the point of October 7 is multifaceted. I've explained this to you before. One of the points was to stop normalization, but another point was to get Palestinians who are being held captive and have been there for years, for decades, out of Israeli prisons. And, well, the Israelis didn't take too kindly to that, did they? Okay. So to make things, to make matters worse, they didn't just go in and kill 274 people. They finally exposed the true purpose of this pier that they've been building. You remember the giant pier? I did several videos about it. They were building it, and then it washed away, and then it came back. It came back just in time. So as I told you from day one, this pier is a cover. They're using it to establish a military foothold, a beachhead. Now, what that purpose is, I don't know. Maybe they will dig a canal. Maybe they want to steal some gas. Maybe they want to take some oil. I don't know. I mean, again, the gas is really the prize in Gaza. It's not so much about oil. It's mostly gas and the canal. But they've used it for this. So they used the genocide pier, as we're now calling it, to rescue these 4 prisoners of war. Okay? And there's even video evidence of this.
לא, אתה לא רואה מעלים. מי זה עם הלבן שם? כן.
So you can see the Black Hawk helicopter taking off right next to the pier, and there are also there are multiple videos of them using the pier, and also to the point the Americans, they had to put out a statement which kind of just reconfirms what they used it for, because everybody noticed, where they're denying that they used it, which again, it's like, take any statement that the Americans put out and just the opposite of what they're saying is true. That's a good rule of thumb, okay? So when they're saying the humanitarian pier facility were not, including its equipment, personnel, and assets, were not used in the operation to rescue hostages today in Gaza. That's a lie. That's a lie. We have Israeli sources confirming that it was, and it's on video, so that's a lie. Okay? And on top of that, they didn't just use the pier, this Trojan horse. They got into these trucks. So the Israelis smuggled in a force of Americans and Israelis through the genocide pier. They got into trucks that looked like trucks that ship food, that ship humanitarian aid. And then they just got out of the trucks and started shooting at people. Again, the death toll is 274. That's a massacre by any means. I mean, even 10 people, you could reasonably call that a massacre. A dozen people. I'm telling you, 274 killed. 274. You know, if this happened in a European city, oh my God, right? We never hear the end of it. And perhaps rightfully so. So again, they get out of the trucks and they start blasting at people and also firebombing it. So you had the jets coming in, they called in airstrikes. And they went into the house. So again, it's not a house, it's more of an apartment building where these hostages were. And they executed everybody who was in front of them, everybody who came in their path, who crossed their path. So I'll show you some more in a second, but just you can see here in this clip, this is one of these humanitarian aid vehicles right there being accompanied by Israeli armored vehicles. See the tanks? Okay, so it's part of the same convoy, right? Which you know it's shady, because if that truck were really carrying food, the Israelis would have blown it up. They wouldn't be protecting it. They would destroy it. Okay? That's how you can tell what is inside the truck. There's definitely no humanitarian aid in that truck. Definitely 100 million%. You get the idea. So they then come out of these vehicles and start shooting at people. And I want to show you some eyewitness testimony. It's not just eyewitness testimony. These are the victims of this attack. Listen to what they have to say.
الأطفال والنسوان خلوهم يدخلوا في البيت بعدين نزلوا البيت ولا 60 شهيد. أقول لك والله ما احنا عارفين مين هذا ومين هذا أشلاء. مش ولا واحد جثة سالمة. أنا مرة واحدة. محمد وأولاده مقطع يا محمد.
احنا قلنا في السوق الناس كانت طبيعي في السوق بتقبل العيد واضحه وفرحانه مهما في حرب ومهما احنا برضه ما احنا فرحانين في العيد نشتري الغد احنا قاعدين نشتري غراض وخضره عشان نتغدى. كان معي صاحبي افش شويه لقينا قاعد كتر منتشر فوق انفراد فوق ال 20 واحد فوق ال 20 طياره لقينا 4 طيارات تنتين هليكوبتر خف سلاح الدين وتنتين على البحر. بس احنا طلعنا المنظر استغربنا فش شويه مدفعين شو اسمه العند بلوك 12 البريس صار ضغط قذيفه وين عن سراد صار له براش تنزل ميه وتدور وطلاق وطاقي كل فجاه مره واحده لا حذرونا لا رموا علينا مناشير لا ولا شيء صارت الاشلاء في الشوارع.
مارك في الشارع اجى شحن صف كله اواعي وكله طناجر يعني تقول واحد جاي من رفح يعزل عنا ما بنسوق الا هم نازلين بيجي 10 قوه خاصه ونزلت الطخطخ خدت 3 اطلاق في صدري وفي ايدي ونزلوا اشتباكات طخ طخ بعدين ما ادريش عن حالي قصف وانفجارات في الاخر انسحبوا خذوني الشباب وطلعوا في على العوده على المستوصف تبع السوق من العياده من غادي اخذوني على الاقصى من الاقصى جابوني هان وين ما اجى خبر طلعت برا ما لقيتش ولا مخلوق في السوق كله مرمى مبطع على الارض مستشهد وراسه مقطوعه مارك في.
And here, this is a video from a journalist who was filming as it was happening.
الجيش عبد الله الله اكبر اشهد ان لا اله الا الله واشهد ان محمد رسول الله الجيش دخل على المدرسة الفجائي وبدأ يعتقل بالناس ويضخ بالناس إعدام. في كل مكان أجانا حاصرنا. تعال يابا، تعال 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 يا الله. إذا كان هذا الفيديو الأخير لي فأنا يا رب رايح عليك بقلب مطمئن يا رب، بقلب مطمئن يا رب. يلا من هون.
This is nothing, honestly. I've seen the photos and videos of the aftermath. This is nothing. This is a joke compared to what you see of people lying on the floor, because right here you just see his initial reaction is he's running, and afterwards he gets to the hospital, and I can't show it to you. I can't show it to you, but what he films afterwards in the hospital is unbelievable, and you know where to find it if you're looking for it. As they all said, you've got people with their guts, their brains hanging out. It's a bloodbath. But according to Jake Sullivan, it's great, right? It's a successful operation to rescue 4 hostages from the grips of Hamas in Gaza. And according to David Cameron, news of the rescue of 4 hostages will be a huge relief to their families. So no mention of the 274 killed and the hundreds wounded. No mention. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. I think the only one who made any mention of the Palestinians was funnily enough Borrell from the EU. I think he's the only one who said anything, ironically. So, again, they're just Amalek. They're Goyim. The Palestinians, this is the Hebrew way of saying subhuman, essentially. This is their mentality. This is how they think. They really believe this. They have to believe. Maybe they don't think it consciously, although many of them do, but they do subconsciously, because that's how they can justify this kind of thing, this bloodbath. This is a video that was released by Hamas afterwards. They said here that the Israelis actually killed, well, the Israelis and Americans, remember, they both did this operation together. So they rescued 4 Israeli POWs, but they actually killed another 3, including an American. Okay? So they rescued 4, they killed 3, including an American, and that's in addition to the 70. 70 is a conservative figure of hostages that they've killed already in the last 8 months with the bombing. So if you were to calculate the military genius at work here, they're in the negative, right? They're at minus 60 something. Okay, that's where they're at. Not really successful in that view, is it? And now the Americans are trying to negotiate a deal with Hamas separately. And again, this is like news from the last hour or so. And what that indicates to me is that the Americans think, at least in the State Department, they think that the army is going to kill or end up killing the 5 other Americans that are in Gaza. And so what they're trying to do now is they're trying to get these Americans out of Gaza by negotiating with Hamas before they're killed, either by the Americans themselves or the Israelis. Okay? Because that's not even 24 hours after Hamas released that statement. And we know it's true because this is not the first time that the Israelis kill their own people and no one countered it or said that it's not true. To me, that's just further confirmation that this happened. And ironically, if you look at this article here from the AP, they're talking about how the hostages were mistreated, and one of the things that they cite is that the girl, she was forced to wash dishes. So washing dishes is torture. I mean, I guess so, but that's a bit of an exaggeration. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Like that is her torture. She had to cook sometimes, and she washed dishes. And this is just in the last family she was held with. So she was held with four families. And here's another thing that I found at another outlet. Okay, so this is all coming from the state broadcaster, the Khan, which is the Israeli state broadcaster. So they say that after initial conversations with the 4 POWs, medical professionals believed they were exhibiting signs of Stockholm syndrome, as the rescued hostages spoke about awful experiences they had been subjected to in captivity, while also saying that their captors cared about their well-being. As a cynical gesture, Jan's captors made him a cake for his birthday. I mean, and they learned Arabic. Some of them learned Arabic. I don't understand where the torture happened or where the, what do they call it? The awful experiences are. Well, I mean, being taken hostage, yes. Or being turned into a POW, yes. Fine. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is it? Washing dishes? Because I'm going to tell you how Palestinians are treated in a bit. And that's really, that's really awful, to put it mildly. So, I don't understand this. Like, they learn Arabic and they have to wash some dishes, and then they speak well about their captors without mentioning anything specific, and then this is Stockholm syndrome to the doctors. Well, no, you're just calling it Stockholm syndrome because you want to paint the Hamas captors as bad people, but they're not. I mean, I can show you many Palestinians who've been actually tortured by the Israelis, and none of them have Stockholm syndrome. Like, just so we're clear, okay? So if these people actually had gone through something, they wouldn't have this. They wouldn't have this, and they don't have it in this case because you can't cite anything. You just talk about washing dishes. What is that? Someone made him a cake? This is mistreatment? I don't understand what's going on. Like, this is not Stockholm syndrome. And then in response, let me show you something. This is a 120 kilo warhead. Okay, so this was fired by Hezbollah. It's the Falak 2, and it's the first time they fired it. Okay, so for the first time, they launched this at the Israelis in response to this. Okay, these are massive. They've never used some things like this. I think they used the Falak ones a few days ago, last week, but this was the first time they used them. And then I'm going to go into detail into Hezbollah in just a second. But in response to this massacre, this is what they did. And they set these Israeli settlements on fire. They're completely up in smoke. And in response, the Yemenis did this. They fired at the HMS Diamond, which is a Royal Navy destroyer in the Red Sea, and they hit 2 commercial ships, Nordani and MSC Tavishi. Now, honestly, these responses are not anything special. They're just not. I mean, they've hit Royal Navy destroyers before, and they've hit commercial ships before. It's nothing special. I don't think that they're going to, impress anyone with that, just so we're clear. But I want to show you some more testimony from the attack itself. This is an image that somebody captured. You can see the Israelis, they use these ladders to go into the buildings. And then this is someone on the ground that they'd shot dead just for literally standing there. So that's it, just for being there. And here from Euromed, they documented these executions by the Israelis. Okay, so the Israelis used a ladder to enter the home of Dr. Ahmed al-Jamal. They immediately executed 36-year-old Fatima al-Jamal upon encountering her on the staircase. The forces then stormed the house and executed her husband, journalist Abdullah al-Jamal, 36, and his father, Dr. Ahmed, 74, in front of his grandchildren. The army also shot their daughter, Zainab, 27, who sustained serious injuries. So what the Israelis did is they just stormed this building, which has multiple apartments, and they murdered everybody inside. Okay, just so I can make that clear. And then the Israelis tried to claim that one of these people so the 36-year-old, right, the journalist, 36-year-old Abdullah Jamal, because he had written once for Al Jazeera as a freelancer, they tried to claim that, Al Jazeera journalists are hiding hostages in their houses. No, it's an apartment building with multiple apartments. If you're living in that building, how are you supposed to know what's going on in the other houses? The other apartments that are in the same complex. So the Israelis just murdered everybody, and the Israelis like are trying to, put those things together when they have no connection really. That's the point. That's the point. Look at the difference. I want to show you the difference because you see them smiling. These hostages when they're freed. She even put on weight. Like she put on weight. So that means that when she was in captivity, Hamas were feeding her more than they were eating. Okay. So in an Israeli prison, you would be starved. But if you're a POW, again, she's a POW. She's not a hostage. She's a prisoner of war. She's an active combatant and participant in the occupation. The fact she was at a festival means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You know, when the IRA target British soldiers who are off duty, no one goes, oh my God, how could you do that? They're just innocent civilians. We know why they're targeted, because they're in the British fucking army. That's why. It's not a mystery. It's not like you have to bring in Sherlock Holmes to unravel why they were targeted. Is it because they're Jewish? No, they're in the British army. They're occupying Ireland. They're targeted. That's why. The same thing. This is the same thing. The fact she was at a festival is of no consequence. Ironically, when these people are captured in civilian clothes, and so many of them turn out to be in the army, it just further proves the point that they're all participant in the occupation. Okay? So the fact there was a day off literally means nothing. You're an occupying army on their soil. So in any case, she put on weight. You can see that she put on weight. That's before and after. And then I'll show you a Palestinian who's been released. Look at the difference. I mean, he looks like he came out of a concentration camp. So this is how you're treated under Hamas as a POW, and this is how you're treated under the Israelis as a civilian. They literally starve you. I saw someone else, Tamimi, who was released today. I'll show you what he looks like, just to underscore my point, okay? Look at the difference before and after. There is something to be said about that, because the Israelis were claiming all sorts of things like, oh my God, they're being raped in Hamas captivity, they're being held in dungeons. It's actually the opposite. It's literally the exact opposite. And I'll prove that to you in just a second. But just again, some more photographs so you can see what I'm talking about, how people look when they're released from Israeli captivity. You know, they got limbs amputated, they can't walk, just horrific stuff, right? And also the handcuffs, they're handcuffed 24/7 to the point that they need to have limbs amputated, okay? And there was one clip I showed you a couple of times from the BBC. They interviewed a Palestinian man who was just one person in a group who'd been released from Israeli captivity. And yeah, they basically shot him in the leg and then had to cut off his leg. And you have other people who've been handcuffed so long and that they have to have the limbs amputated. And ironically, this Israeli broadcaster, she said that the hostage, the POW, she said that her eyebrows are better than mine, so they fired her. So, you know, you can't make any sort of claim or insinuation that they're treated well under Hamas, even though it's visually clear. You know, you can see it with your own eyes that she looks healthy, she looks fit, she's smiling, she's fatter than when she went in. You know, we can see that with our own eyes. She's not even talking about that. She just said her eyebrows are better than mine. Fired. Like that's how crazy it is with the Israelis. And that's why after 24 hours, 48 hours, like the only thing they have is, they cynically made me a cake for my birthday. Shit, man, you're lucky to get a cake at all. I don't know any POWs to get cakes for their birthdays, cynically or otherwise. I mean, this is just comical, really. It's like they're trying so bad to find something to say, about Hamas, and they made me a cake for my birthday. Wow. Oh, okay. Congratulations. But seriously, I'm not joking. Like this idea that they get mistreated under Hamas and so on. It's a direct projection of what Israelis do. Again, YouTube demonetized my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. You know, telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.